I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is
On this
a
sad
sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Shout out to our sponsors. Major Team Mortgage, Omaha Laser Dentistry, Exclusively Eye Care, Liberty Core Real Estate, Avier Wealth Management, and Apex Men's Clinic. We appreciate their support.
Are you or someone you know in the market to buy a new home? Well, if so, check out Major Team Mortgage at Exarban Mortgage. They specialize in home purchase and refinance home loans. Their mission is to purposely empower people to experience their good life through building wealth with real estate. You know, showing up in the gloom is no different than showing up for a conversation around your future of building wealth with real estate. Join the action economy and get in the game with Sasquatch. Text or call John at 402-212-0149 to schedule a time today. NMLS number 1393750, Equal Housing Lender.
Now let's get back to the gloom.
Music going here.
And we're back. We do need some theme music, right? It's all the after edit stuff. Man, I'm excited to get this guy's story out on the air. He's been in F3 for a long time. I remember getting to work out with him in the early days because I used to live a lot closer. But also, this guy's developed several, if not all, I feel like, of our logos for our various AOs. So really kind of creating that image of F3 Omaha, but also recently was a site Q at Battlefield. So our man Tenderfoot, you look good. It's good to see you. Happy Friday.
Yeah.
Why don't you just start us at the beginning? Who EH'd you? What was the first workout like? And then how do we get the name Tenderfoot?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I know you've been trying to get me on this little radio show for a while. Sorry, I've been tough to get hold of. But yeah, glad to be here. So let's see. We were talking about it. I've been a member of F3 Omaha now for just over 5 years. Initially EH'd by our comms Q Safe Ride.
There you go.
I honestly don't even recall what the first workout was. I remember it was at Stinson Park, so it must have been maybe the Cornhusker Handicap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't generally go to Cornhusker Handicap because I try to keep the places I go to work out within 1 mile of my house.
Sure.
So I can walk there. Yeah, it was kind of a blur, and we ran around the Bradford Bowl, I think is what that park is called, and we were doing burpees in the parking garage and Imperial Walkers. I had no clue what was going on. I was ready to say, okay, we're done. And that was after Warmarama. So I think it's a very normal experience for most guys. Like, what is going on? What are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool because, I really enjoyed the workout, and I enjoyed, the guys' stories and the COT. I think that's what kind of initially kept me coming back. It was just how raw and emotional and true the guys in the workouts were, and so that kind of made me feel like that these could be my people, and because these are the kind of guys that are going through the same kind of struggles, and they're asking the same kind of questions about life and leadership, brotherhood, and service that I think mattered to me, and still do, and that's why I'm still a member of this group. But yeah, I think it's possible that Safe Ride identified that in me and knew that maybe on some level, I had some of that sad clown going, and that I needed brothers that that had those same things and going on in their life, and I think he was right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 5 short years later, here I am on this radio show with you.
I love it. And how did you know Safe Ride?
So yeah, this kind of segues into my F3 name. So I was his son's Cub Scout den leader. And
Okay.
so Bloodshot's son was in the Cub Scout troop, and Betamax's son was in the Cub Scout troop. So I was their wolf den Cub Scout leader, and their tiger, and their bear, and their weeblo. So that's how I got the name Tenderfoot. I don't think that the guys realize that Tenderfoot is a Boy Scout rank, not
Oh,
Girl
yeah.
Scout rank. But yeah, that's how I got the name Tenderfoot, because I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm pretty much into Boy Scouts, pretty hardcore. My friend's a
Mhm.
Scout. He's trying to get his Eagle, and so I got the name Tenderfoot, which it's not as badass as Plague, and it's not as cool as Safe Ride, and
Yeah.
Bloodshot's just got the best F3 name, and I got this like Tenderfoot name. It's just it's the tenderest of names.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I will say I think true measure of a man, being an Eagle Scout, man, that's not easy to do, and that's
Yeah,
man, that's one of those things I wish I would have pursued at some point in life, but just never. My dad wasn't into it, and how did you get into that, or how did you get down that path?
well, it's interesting. My dad, I got into Scouts, and I was in Scouts in rural Nevada in the 1980s and 90s. And my mom's dad was an Eagle Scout, and so I don't know if she was
Hmm.
pressuring my dad for me to complete it, but my dad really, I think, was like, "This is important. It's important to start something and finish something." And I picked up a lot of cool skills. I had a lot of fun with friends in Scouts as a youth, and so that's just something that I really look back on. And though Scouts itself is kind of has this checkered past, and some it's got its own problems. I think the good outweighed the bad, and so I really wanted my son to kind of give that to not just give it a shot, but to complete it and do it his way. And
Hmm.
so, I think it's a good program for helping boys become good guys, good men. And so I'm still an adult leader with my son's troop, and I feel like if I'm there volunteering and being a conscientious adult leader, I can make sure none of the weird crap that went on in that organization in the past continued
Hmm.
doesn't continue on. And um, I think it's a good thing, especially because I think that there's not every guy is like an alpha and like super athletically gifted. Take me for example, I am not, but I think you pick up skills that make you both. I think helpful to your community, helpful to your family, helpful to carry passing down how to pitch a tent and catch a fish and cook that meal. I think those are helpful things for any young guy to learn how, and young girls too. These to the for that matter,
Hmm.
to learn how to do, because being in the outdoors is just so lovely. So
Yeah. Well, and like survival skills, right? Like if you're, like I feel like an idiot if I'm like, I don't know how to do, if there's not a microwave, we're not surviving, right? It's like,
yeah,
so I got to learn how to do some of that stuff.
exactly. How to build a fire, how to help someone if they get hypothermia at an F3 workout. Say they're doing the winter CSOP and they get hypothermia. That you got to have an
Yeah.
Eagle Scout for that.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Well, and you kind of touched on something there where, and I love that we get to see this in F3 because it's not, we aren't just trying to reinvigorate like the high school jock, right? Like that, like there's not like a type of guy we're trying to reinvigorate. It's just male community leadership in whatever form that looks like, through your leadership. So I love that. How, as you came into the group, I guess, did you play sports at all, or what's your background growing up?
No, no, I'm not a sports player. I'm not really like a team sports person either. Like it's crazy. Like I feel like such a hypocrite when I'm watching like youth sports. I'm like, hit the ball. I'm like, could I hit
Yeah.
the ball? No.
Yeah.
So like I did more individual sports as a young person. So high school for me was like, okay, I will do long distance running
Hmm.
badly. I will do long distance swimming badly. But the reason I did well at them is because I was the only person that would sign up for that and suffer through that mile swim or that 5K cross country run, because no one wants to do that stuff, but like I don't
Hmm.
mind the pain. And so I'm not a great sports team member, because I just it's crazy. I don't know why, but I just don't have in the moment. I can't filter what I feel or what I say to not be like
Mhm.
hit the ball, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I try to take myself out of those kinds of scenarios because it's not who I want to be, and I don't see
Hmm.
the best version of myself in those kinds of things. So I just tend to do like, and that's why I think I like F3 because if we're doing running AOs, like I'll probably be the last guy on the run, but because I'm more of the Clydesdale variety, but
Hmm.
I like to run. I like to be in the zone, but I'm just I'm not a team runner. I'm not a team sports player.
Sure. Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I am curious. You mentioned that you kind of like to push through the pain. Where do you think that sort of like drive or spirit comes from? Is that from your dad or or
I don't
growing up?
know. I just I I've listened to a lot of like leadership books over the years and read a lot of them too, and it talks about like the pressure creating greatness. Especially on like leading a team through pressure creates highly engaged teams that
Mm,
that are resilient and can perform under pressure, and the pressure makes diamonds. Um,
there you go.
I think that I've found that about myself, here in the late 30s and 40s about myself, that that's what I seek out, and I don't know why. Um, I did when I was in my 20s. I would do like long distance running with running groups, and we'd do like 24-hour relays where we ran around Lake Tahoe, and it was 178 miles,
Wow.
and each person would run like 22 miles of it, and I really enjoyed that because it was a team running, but you did it alone, but with your friends, and I like the pain because the pain gives me focus, and then like I love the pushing through and realizing that I can do more than I thought I could,
Mm,
and the more I do those things, the more surprised I am that I can do them, and
yeah.
I like that surprise because it just kind of like makes me wonder, well, what else can I do?
That's cool. I love that. And just that curiosity, that spirit is, yeah, it just kind of like just keeps perpetuating, right? You could, gain some confidence and you're like, if I did that, I could do, I love that. What's been for you, like, in terms of like fitness or that first app, have you like achieved some fitness goals? Are you tracking fitness goals, or is that first step really just more like kind of something you're kind of keeping steady, maintaining? What's
Yeah,
your journey
I definitely reached a fitness goal during COVID
there? Okay.
when I had the time to really focus and like kind of like really dial in on first F and then on Q or a Queen
Mm,
service. I really hit some goals which were fantastic then that I'd love to get back to. It's just that sometimes like the other things in life keep me from getting where I want to with that. I don't track my fitness goals as much as I want to, but that's just because I feel like and I think I have to be okay with myself with saying that there are cycles to life and seasons in it. And right now, I'm not in the season where I can commit or I can give everything I want to that. So I'm kind of just in this in between season
hmm.
until
Yeah.
we can come back to where I want to be. So right now, it's just like trying to make sure that I'm being out in the gloom with the guys for a couple days a week, and not letting that FOMO keep me from coming back out because I had a surgery in December, and the recovery took longer than I thought. And then the longer I was in recovery, the more I started feeling like I was missing out on what was going on with the guys. And then I started getting worried that I didn't know what was going on with all of the conversations. And then that
Mm,
started creating fear and doubt and pushing me from coming back and being more regular out on the for the beat downs. And so, um, yeah, I think the short answer to your question is I would like to be more in the season of the first F right now, but I
yeah.
find myself somewhere in between, but on my way back in.
Yeah, sure. Well, and I think that's the beauty of it, right? Is like there's no requirement for you to be at any sort of level on, I think I've gone through that same thing, and I like the way you worded that it's sort of like this FOMO that creates fear, and then it almost like keeps you from going back, even though like you want to be there so bad. And like when our second daughter was born, I went through that same thing where I didn't post for a month, and then it was sort of like, like I didn't go, but I really wanted to. And yeah, it's an interesting sort of thing. How did you overcome it, or how did you work through that?
I don't know. Like, I think I still deal with it a lot, honestly, because like the group of guys are just so cool, and sometimes I'm like, well, I don't know if I don't feel as cool as the guys I get the opportunity to hang out with every day when I'm at a beat down. And so I don't know if I've really overcome it, except that like maybe I've just like addressed it and like put a name to it and said, you know, I know that that's happening, but I know it's not true. So
Yeah.
just put on the shoes and go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think? I wish you knew how cool I think you are. I don't know if you know that.
No, I don't.
I think it's funny, right? We don't ever probably acknowledge enough, but I'm the same way, And I think some of it's society, right? We go through these phases as young boys, and we get taught certain things, and maybe it's jock mentality or whatever, but like I've always been searching for like this level of approval from other guys, and I've never really felt like I've ever achieved it, and so I think I'll just validate for you, like when I see you in the gloom, I'm like, that's the guy he's like designed all of F3 Omaha's logos. He's got this amazing talent. Every time somebody sends me a logo that you've designed, I'm just blown away. Like I just saw the one for Beacon Valley, and I'm like, how does he even do that? And to you, you're probably like, it's getting too easy, guys. So anyway, I just want to validate. Like when I see you out there, I'm like, he's too cool for me to be getting to hang out with.
Well,
So
it's kind of you to say. The feeling is likewise. I mean, like I just don't like ever put myself on that same level. I don't know if that's like a problem with my personality, that I just put everybody else on these like really high pedestals that maybe like they don't want to even be on. But
sure,
I think so highly about like every guy in F3, and it's just like it's cool to be out there and talking with them when I'm not trying to catch my breath.
yeah,
Mostly during coffee, I can chat with them, and
yeah,
it's just I don't know. I don't mean to design all the logos for F3, and I know there's other guys in F3 that design a bunch. I'm very flattered that people come and ask me for my help to help execute their vision. But yeah, I don't think of myself on that same level as I think of like like the Redwoods and like the OG F3 guys. I mean, like those, when I see those guys out at the workouts, I'm like, oh man, those guys are cool.
yeah, yeah. That's funny.
But they
Yeah.
don't want to be there. They probably don't want that. They probably don't want me to put my baggage on them. So I'll just keep that private.
For sure. No, I love it. It's just funny, and some of what guys may not realize is before we had your skills helping us make logos, essentially our site logos were just like really terrible clip art from Google. It's like I remember the Paradise Island one was literally like a picture of a beach from, I just Google image, like, paradise, and then whatever, So anyway, you have just total like 180 turn that around, and we're doing great things. But get us back on track here with kind of the first, second, third F. You're in kind of this like Loveland crew, right? Like you're in that neighborhood, and so from a second F standpoint, and you mentioned all the guys that you were leading their kids. So was it easy for you to build those relationships, or what was the progression like there from a second F standpoint?
Yeah, I think a lot those relationships were really, I think, one of the reasons. Well, I don't think it was hard at all for those relationships to get developed, because the guys in that neighborhood are just really fantastic guys, and a lot of it just kind of comes from Safe Ride. He's just like one of the, well, all the guys, honestly. It's not just Safe Ride, but I think Safe Ride is like a large generator of positive glue in the neighborhood. And so it really wasn't hard because I was seeing these other dads. I was seeing Beta, I was seeing Toadstool, I was seeing Bloodshot, and I was seeing them every day. I see them at the pool at Sunset Hills Pool in the evenings. We'd be sitting around and just talking about the workout from the morning. And so those relationships kind of just organically created because I'm just around these guys
Mhm.
at the beatdown in the morning. I see them at school pickup. I see them at the pool in the evening, and then COVID hit, and
Mhm.
um, and I think like at that point, pretty much every guy in the neighborhood's like, okay, I need something to get me through what seems to be the end of the world. And it's just
Mhm.
seemed like every guy in the neighborhood just like really just went head first into everything F3. And so, I mean, I can think about it. I knew that these guys were the guys that I wanted to hang out with for until I die. Um, when we were drinking blackberry brandy in a parking lot on a Wednesday morning at 7:15 because we
That's
thought
the
that the
whole.
world was going to end. I'm like, well, this seems like as good a way to go out as anything. um, and so I just, when you're hanging out with, really great guys that are doing really great things, and you're leading their kids in scouts, and you're hanging out at the pool every evening and talking about the beatdown and how crazy it was, and where you're going tomorrow. It was so much. It was so easy to forge really great relationships with these guys, and just kind of like solidify them as your crew. So yeah, it really wasn't any work of mine own. It was really the neighborhood and the proximity, and pretty much we're all these guys are the same age. We're going through the same stuff. We've got kids that are
Mhm.
going through the same stuff, and just it kind of just made it that much easier to like bond.
Yeah, that's so cool, and I love just that proximity, right? You think about like I think the three P's of a shield lock or whatever, right? You've got you have them all there, and you're leading some of their kids in scouts, which is just and then I think you've got Smash Mouth, right? Who's teaching most of the kids at school, and
Yep.
it's like a really cool picture of the community there. What curious your thoughts as you think about like other relationships within like your concentrica. How do you feel like this influence of these guys that are doing great things? How do you feel like that influence impacted your role as a husband and a father? Like, do you feel like you've seen some growth in those areas too?
Yeah, I mean, I think the COTs has really, um, it's helped me identify like I think flaws in my character, and
Hmm.
it's kind of like helped me like maybe look more inward and analyze um, my maybe my some of my own hubris.
Hmm.
It's allowed me to kind of go, maybe I need to be more of a student of life and not think that I've got things figured out, and maybe I need to keep my head on a swivel, look out for uh, what life might be throwing at me next. um, and it's also, I think, made me kind of think more open to realizing I'm not a finished product, and that I
Hmm.
don't need to carry myself or try to carry myself that way at home. And and then taking that, kind of, I think, what I'm trying to say is I think that we need to be forgiving of ourselves as finished product in men, and also like kind of extend that to our M's and to our 2.0s. So I think it's made me a lot more flexible, even though I'm still am pretty kind of a hard ass. Um, but I think I'm a lot better than I was, and I'm working to get better every day. But I think, yeah, it's kind of opened me up to know that, like, we're not finished products. We're all a work in progress. We need to be, forgiving of ourselves and others. And if we can do that, we can go through this life with a lot more, I think, enjoyment, and I think
Hmm.
openness to try new things and new experiences and stuff.
Absolutely. Curious if you would share like a little bit more about that concept of like we're not a finished product. Like, what do you mean, or do you have an example of like maybe a time when you felt that way and learned differently?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, it's tough to say because, like, I think of myself as, a leader here at work, a leader at home, a leader within F3 in my own way, a leader to my son, and then a husband that's um, caring and supportive, and all those other good things that I try to be at home in that role as the husband. Um, but I just don't think that. I think a lot. I don't know if it's a generation of, like, I'm a Zennial, so I was born in 1980, so I'm not a Gen X, I'm not a millennial.
Mm.
I don't know if it's like a micro, or if it was like those 4 years of people raised from 1978 to 1982 that they grow up thinking that, okay, I need to do all these things and I need to check all these boxes. I need to be a complete, well-rounded person, and I have to always be like, I am complete. And I don't
Mm.
know, maybe that's a guy thing, maybe that's a generational thing, but I think for a long time I thought that I had to be perfect. I had to be like exactly this one way to be the right kind of man, the right kind of like father and husband and leader in my job. And the more I listen to COTs, the more I talk to other guys that I look up to, and the more I talk with people at work and books I read on leadership and podcasts on leadership, it's just that, no, you're not a finished product, and you shouldn't try to hold yourself up as that, because if you do that, you're shutting yourself down for growth. And I want to continue to accelerate. I'm a huge fan of what F3 does for accelerating people, and I feel like that means that you need to be open to growth. And if you're open to growth, that means you need to look at yourself as an unfinished product, and that you're always growing and always getting better. And so
Mm.
I really like the vulnerability that I get from COTs, because that talks to or shows me that we have other guys here that are unfinished, but I can take their tip that'll help me be more finished.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate you sharing more on that. I think it kind of like a little bit of what I'm hearing you say is like, embrace failure or areas where you maybe haven't developed. But I like this idea of like you're an unfinished product, because it to me it has maybe more of a connotation of like you'll get better. Like like it's got a positive connotation to it. So I love that.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Is because if you think that you're perfect, like, you're shutting yourself down for growth. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I know people fail forward or they fail up, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's growth, and growth is sometimes messy and sometimes weird, but it's growth nonetheless. So take it as it comes, and just work through it.
Yeah, I love it. Tell me, one of the things they talk about, like in Free to Lead, is like male relationships, or they talk about like sad clown syndrome. And in the second F sort of piece, right? You've got you're developing some really strong relationships. You're continuing to like, you know, lead some guys and their kids through the Scouts program. You feel like, when you think about like maybe where you were at with your male relationships before F3 and where you are today, has there been progress there? Can you pinpoint anything that maybe helped with that?
Yeah. Yeah. My male relationships before I started F3 were like non-existent. Like, I think a lot of guys, they think they have to like let those relationships go, or maybe they just naturally let them die, because they are like, I think that there's a lot of growing that happens, post college, and as you find maybe a life partner and you're figuring out how to be a good partner with that person, you maybe correctly think that you need to let certain other relationships go. And then as you add kids into the mix, more relationships go. And as you maybe move to a new city, more relationships go.
Mm.
Along the way, I lost every male friend I had. I had no friends when I moved here to the city. And so, like, the first year I was here, maybe the first 2 years were like so depressing. I threw myself into my work. My work became everything I did. It became all of my entire existence. It was all I had. And so I think my wife rightly said, "I think you're depressed."
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so, so when Safe Ride I said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing," or no, I saw him after scouts. I'm like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He's like, "Oh gosh, I'm so worn out." I'm like, "Oh yeah, me too." He's like, "No, it's from this workout group." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." He's like, "Yeah, you should come." I'm like, "All right, see you there."
Yeah.
And the next day, he's like, "Yeah, are you coming?" I'm like, "Okay, all right, let's do this." Uh,
Yeah.
and so, my wife Janet, when I don't work out and I do have that FOMO going, and that FOMO is turning into like not going to workouts, she can see it in me, and she sees how sad I get, and so
Hmm.
like she really does encourage me to get out there and see the guys, because she knows like I'm like a million times better if I work out, or if I go and I catch up with them at, for drinks at Casual Pint, even though I don't drink anymore.
Mm.
Or if I'm just going to see him at the pool, like she's always like, you need to go see your daddy buds, get out of here, go see the guys. And so, yeah, I lost all my friends. And so I desperately needed a group like F3, which is like, it's kind of weird, like the universe provides for you. So,
Mm.
just in that moment of weakness and darkness, and like when things feel like they're not so great, the universe provides.
Mm. I love it. Curious because for me, like my part of my journey is I lost a lot of my friends when I got clean and sober, and I just sort of picked up on you saying you stopped drinking, which curious sort of what led to that, and then isn't it cool that you can have really great friends that like drinking or using drugs or not, like they don't care, it doesn't matter, you're still like really great friends, like I don't know, so just curious your thoughts on that. And
Yeah, I like that. I feel like sometimes like men and older guys, we can fall into like, well, this is my drinking group, or this is my group that I go to watch football games with and I drink there, or this is
Mhm.
my group that I go and I, whatever. It just feels like alcohol as a Western culture is so ingrained into so many of our casual pastimes. And I just last year I identified, I'm like, look, I don't enjoy this anymore. Um, it feels like it's all I do is this, and
Mhm.
I feel like I have to work out that much harder to not let all those extra calories just pack on. And so I was like, well, why don't I just take that first step and remove that from part of the equation? And the guys in F3, they're great. Though there's a lot of like fellowship in that at Casual Pint, uh,
Mhm.
it's not a prerequisite to hang out and catch up and shoot the breeze. And so, um, yeah, I just decided to cut that out entirely. And the guys have all been really kind to me, and like they don't, no one makes me feel weird about it, which because it's just just a personal choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like I didn't like need to make the choice, but I wanted to make the choice because I just like, alcohol had become a part of my life for like 21 years. And it's like,
Mhm.
you look back at, gosh, it's a big part of my life for that long. Is that really,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to keep doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just, last year was my son's first year at Boy Scout camp. And so that was the week I stopped.
Okay, good for you, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think a lot more people are looking at that, and whether you have an actual problem or not, it's one of those things you just kind of self-examine and say, I want to see what it's like without. So yeah, totally admire and appreciate that decision. I love that, like you said, it's not a prerequisite. I certainly have had friendships that if we weren't drinking or using together, we weren't hanging out. And so,
Yeah.
it's just cool that that's not the case with guys in F3. But
Yo, Gloom listeners, it's the Plague, and today I'm talking about getting your finances as fit as your physique. Our very own F3 Omaha brother Jean-Claude, aka Michael Pfluger at Avior Wealth Management, specializes in building personalized financial plans. He understands the journey you walk in life as a man of faith, safeguarding your family and creating a legacy. Jean-Claude is ready to help you plan your finances with intention so that you can live with purpose. And that's just the beginning when you work with the Avior Wealth team. Visit avior.com/F3. That's AVIOR.com/F3 and see how Michael can guide your financial journey today.
I want to get your thoughts too, because as we think about, there's several things right within F3, like coffee and maybe pre-running or It could be happy hours, but what were some of the things that you have found helpful over the years to kind of build those relationships?
Yeah, I mean, like some of the best times I've had are like volunteering outside of F3, like if it's like at Abide or if it's at Heartland Hope during the holidays. I think those are great opportunities to see guys not in their black, running tights.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
you wear a suit to the office. Oh, okay. So I love seeing F3 guys outside of the workouts because it's like you don't know what you might be working or working out with one of the city's best criminal defense lawyers and not even realize it. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I love just getting together with the guys outside of the beatdowns to hear what they're talking about. I love hearing about their jobs and their stories and like kind of the leadership tests that they're going through within their teams. Um, those are the kinds of things I love to hear about, and I love to just chat guys up about what's going on with work these days. Because I mean, I don't know if I work at a laser hair removal company, and so
Oh.
not a lot goes on here besides like, hey, we need another promotion to encourage people to laser their hair. And so,
Sorry to laugh. It's funny to me. I imagine that you worked at like but you do marketing. You're like in a marketing
yeah, I work in a
graphic
marketing
design.
role within a laser hair removal company.
Okay.
And
Well,
so
hey, everybody needs to market their product, right?
exactly. So I'm all about the laser hair removal. So I love talking with guys and seeing what they do for a living and asking them what that's like. Because I mean, I live and work in this really funky, weird laser hair removal world. I don't work in ad agencies anymore because like that's a younger guy's game.
Hmm.
I'm not down for that. But yeah, I mean, I love just being at things outside of F3 events, and I'm like maybe 3 weeks ago, we were at the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation gala,
Oh yeah.
and there was like 32 F3 guys, all like,
Hmm.
"Hey, what's up?" And everyone's wearing a suit, and but we're talking about an F3 workout from that morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I really like getting together with guys outside of F3 events or outside of the workouts, and just still talking about the workout.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, and our wives love that too,
Oh
right?
yeah, is there anything else to talk about? No.
Not really. Yeah, I love it. I'm curious. And I don't know why, but what's coming to mind. Did you used to work in an ad agency?
Yeah, so I worked, let's see, from like '03 until uh, 2020. So I did 17 years of ad agency work, and then I freelanced on my own for a few years, and then I got kind of brought in house to the client side. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, this has been like my longest stint with like a team uh, as an internal leader. I'd always just been a leader within the ad agency world, and so it's been a great change. Really investing in the team, applying the kind of stuff that I'm learning from the other guys in F3, um, and just finding great book recommendations and realizing I'm not going through these things alone.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's been great.
That's awesome. Well, and I think that a lot of guys, at some point in our journey, we go through like this identity, purpose, career, job, like I'll call it a crisis, but maybe not. Maybe that's not the right word. But like at some point, we're like making a major decision, right? About like I've been doing this forever, and now I'm for whatever reason I want to go a different route. How was it having the backing of all of the guys as you were doing that? Like, did that make that transition easier for you, or what, or like to go out on your own? I mean, that to most guys, like that's terrifying.
Yeah, it was. I think it was really great having like the F3 and Loveland crew community behind me during that time because it was. I mean, full transparency. I mean, like going out on my own, it wasn't my choice. I was laid
Mm.
off prior to because of COVID, and so I had to like go and figure it out on my own. And knowing that I had guys that I could talk to because otherwise I was on my own and just talking with clients. Um, and they don't want to hear your troubles and tribulations. So having the
Yeah.
support of the guys, it was just so helpful. And then when I was considering going back into like this corporate role, again, having like feedback from guys going, "Oh, I've heard of that organization," or "I think, that's a great opportunity for you." And, just having, people that honestly care about you and would, be that, group of people that would listen to you and give you their opinion, because, I think so highly of them. And I greatly value their opinion of what they think might be a good choice for me, because sometimes like, I can, I love this old quote, and it's a swear, but it's like, I think my guts have shit for brains. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't trust my guts. I got to rely on my friends here, my very smart and intelligent friends, on what they think I should do here.
Yeah, I think that's great, and what a great example of just leaning in and finding people you can trust. Because you're originally from where?
So yeah, so I grew up in northern Nevada,
Yep.
in a mining town called Elko. And it's halfway between Salt Lake and Reno, and halfway between Boise and Vegas. So in the middle of nowhere.
Okay. Yeah, just
Yeah,
desert.
yeah, desert. And then I left there and moved to Reno, and I'd been in Reno from like '99 to 2013. Moved to Phoenix for a few years, and then came out here because my wife's family is from Omaha, and we'd visited, and I said, "Wow, trees grow there. That's beautiful. Let's go there."
Somewhere that's not the desert. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just so cool to me to like hearing where you came from, and then the fact that you found a group that you can trust, and that like these guys like clearly love you and want to pour into you and help you with life. It's just such a cool thing, and I feel like that's available to every guy that that comes out and that kind of joins this community. It's like there's
Yeah, I mean,
endless possibilities for that.
it seems like there's like little like pockets of guys that are, that kind of like spring up around every location where an AO is. And like, okay, there's like, this group of guys that are all out and or down in Sarpy, like with the Sarpy Swagger crew. Those guys, like,
Mhm.
it took a while to get them on board, because I remember
Yeah.
when we first started down there at the pit, and I think it was me and it was Gunner uh, down there on Saturdays every day for about a year and a half, and eventually
Hmm.
the Sarpy boys figured it out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, like, there's these pockets of guys that are just like totally ride or die for each other, in all these little different portions of the city, and it's just great. And you know, I think any guy that's either new to F3, or even if they've been in a long time and they haven't like totally leaned in, it's available to all of them. And and I don't know if every guy reaches that point where they need that at the same
Hmm.
point, but I definitely, from what I definitely believe from what I've heard from other guys and from like, all of F3 nationals, like pretty much every guy hits that point where they
Yeah.
do need that. And it's great that there's so many opportunities for that here in F3 Omaha.
Absolutely. No, I love it. And I'm curious, when you think about fitness fellowship faith and, talking about like this fellowship piece, but like, where does the faith piece fit in? You mentioned a little bit of like going to some of the community service events, which I love that you mentioned that, because we don't often hear guys connect the third F community service with the second F, but I think there's a ton of opportunity there. Like the relationship you build with somebody while you're serving is amazing. But talk me through like what your journey from a third F perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I know that like F3 is a non-denominational group, and so is Scouts.
Yep.
I was raised Catholic, but I'm not a practicing Catholic at this point in my life. I was raised in the Catholic Church in the '80s and '90s, and that was where there was an absolute crap ton of problems going on with that, and that drove me away from organized religion. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the way I've come back to connecting with people on that faith level, though, is knowing that I don't have to subscribe to those things to be a good human being that can help support other good human beings and other good organizations that aren't, doing terrible things to young
Right.
people.
Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox now, but
Yeah. 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 No.
but yeah, I'm non-denominational. I'm more spiritual, but I do believe that there's some kind of a guiding force, because otherwise, how could all of this exist? So
Hmm.
call it what you want. It could be God. It could be the flying spaghetti monster. You know, it could be whatever, Cthulhu, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that being in a group of really good guys that are always going, hey, there's a need. There are people that are in need. I'm organizing this thing. I want to be a part of that. I want to help you help those people because of what you believe in, and I believe in you, and I want to help you, and I want to help them.
Hmm.
And there's a reason to be a kind human, and let's go do this thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I on some level, it's like I know I'm kind of like the odd one out, especially like because like there's a lot of faith communities here in Omaha, especially here in the Midwest. And me as a transplant, I kind of come in with uh, just not that same. I don't lean as heavily into the third F, but I think if there's
Yeah.
guys that do listen to this and they're like, well, I also don't lean in. I think that should. I would just say to them like, you don't have to look, if you're leaning in hard on the other two, um, you know, do it your way. I think you can do it your own way. You don't have to like try to like third F someone else's way.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I was talking to one of our other guys doing an interview earlier this week, and they made a comment about like pogo 40, that concept of like with your weight like going up and down, or
Oh yeah,
like your first F habits go up and down, and they made that comment about the third F too, and it sort of struck me that like, well, that totally makes sense, right? That like all of these things are gonna kind of bounce up and down based on where you're at, what you're going through, what your family's going through.
yep,
And I think part of the cool thing with F3 is like you have a group of guys that are really just there to tell you that's okay and that's normal. And like, like it's funny how much we just need validation that what's going on is not crazy. Like, I don't know if
yeah,
is that been true for you too, or?
yeah. I mean, like, I think it's like, yeah, in the Pogo 40, I think you could say it's, for all of things, like you kind of have cycles to everything. And, I think the guys are just happy to see you when you show up, right? Whether you show up to do a third F thing, or whether it's like you're, showing up for the Chris Gradaville event or a beatdown or just a happy hour. Like the guys are just happy to see you. And I think that's beautiful. I think
Yeah.
it's what a lot of guys need.
Yeah, for sure. Well, talk me through. Sorry, before we go too far on, I do want to make sure. I think the way you worded that is spot on with F3 and the third F. I think because we're in the Midwest and in Omaha, we probably lean a little more Christian Catholic, but that's not. My favorite example is this guy in NA that I knew whose higher power was a rock, and it was sort of like that was good enough for him. That's what he needed. It just can't be yourself. And outside of that, it's like whatever you need it to be. But some guys have referenced like the group sort of serves as almost like a group conscience or higher power for them, and that's a really cool concept that I totally get to. So I think it's just to your point, like you don't have to do any of the F's a certain way, right? Other than the way you view them. So I would just continue to reiterate that because that's super important. Would
Yeah,
love to see us get more diverse guys out in that third F category someday.
yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I don't want to I don't want to offend anybody, because I know like everyone has like their own point of views on those things. But I just like, I think sometimes like I get worried, like if I have to do a COT, if I'm gonna, if I'm trying to pray us out and I don't do it right, I'm like, oh gosh, sorry guys,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it my way today.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think from my perspective, I'll always try to say, just be conversational, right? I'll say, "What up, God?" It's the plague, and because I think God has a sense of humor, right? And at the end of the day, He just wants to communicate with us, and so that's. But what a cool thing, right? That like you don't have to have a religious affiliation to pray to a power that's in charge of the universe, right? Like you don't have to have a membership card at some big, stone building to like pray. It's just, I don't know. I love that we do that. Talk me through, so the other piece of this is reinvigorating male community leadership. We try to do that with the Site Q role, all of that sort of stuff. But talk me through your experience as a Site Q. What was that like? Did you feel like it was a good growth opportunity? And then maybe talk us through how you selected a successor there.
Yeah. So yeah, I really did see it as a growth opportunity. I had no clue how to do it right. And if I needed to even worry about doing it right, maybe like I just needed to just do it right.
Yeah.
And so I think initially I started out with like very much looking for validation from the packs, like, hey, am I doing this right? Blah, blah, blah. But eventually I kind of got into a routine. I talked with previous site Qs like Safe Ride and Huffy on how they would do it. I got very regimented with mine. Created a Wikipedia, like a wiki how to do the battlefield. Uh,
Nice.
and so I created that. It had like all the on this day you do this, on this day you do that. Here's where all the where all your files are located. Here's your logo files. Here's the spreadsheet where you can find a PAX if you're looking for someone's contact information to ask them to be a queue. So yeah, I got very organized in that way.
Hmm.
I was worried that I wasn't going to do it right. I don't know. Like maybe that's just like I'm constantly worried that I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for the definitely like first 3 months, I didn't know what I was doing and trying desperately to do it what I thought was right. Near the end, I was getting really pretty good at it. But it was time to give it up because it was getting cold and I don't like working out in January and February. So I'd asked around, and I knew that prior to me being the site Q at Battlefield, Samples had talked to Splinter, and so on some level, I felt like maybe I kind of snaked the Battlefield from him, and he deserved a shot at Battlefield. So I was like, I want to give him first dibs. So I reached out to him, and he's like, let me think on it, and so I gave him a few weeks to think on it, and then I'm like, hey man, what do you think? And he's like, well, let me think. Let me talk to my wife about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he went and talked to his wife, and I gave him a couple of weeks. And then he's like, you know what? Let's do this. So, yeah, we just made a date. He planned to take it over. And, he said that his wife was going to be going through some surgery, and she has, and it didn't go great. And I'm really worried for her, but happy that she's doing better.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that he stepped into that role. I think he's a fantastic man, and I hope everything is going well for him and his family. I think about him every day, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just like I think he's great, and it was easy to ask him, and it was I think easy for him to accept the role and for him to do it his way now that he's doing it. But yeah, just a great guy, and I think he's great. So
Yeah. Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, and he is he started like I forget what he called it, but essentially like calling out a guy, like giving T claps to somebody for their leadership that week or whatever. He started doing that. I feel like a long time ago at Battlefield, and just kind of calling out a guy he wanted to give a shout out to, and it just I think that having another man tell you you're doing something good helps you build confidence, and I think that's where a lot of this reinvigoration comes from, right? It's like just have another guys support you and tell you, hey, you're doing a good job. So yeah. What do you think? Any advice in your time as a site Q? Any advice for other site Qs or guys that are leading the site, how to do it well? Or I loved your organization, by the way. If we could get all site Qs to do that, I'd be out of a job, I think.
yeah, make your job easier for sure. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, it's tough. Like, every site Q, they take the job and they have no idea what they're doing, and maybe they're worried that someone's going to judge them or think that they're not doing it right, or maybe that was just me and what I felt.
Mhm.
But I would guess that a lot of guys feel that way. They're like, oh gosh, what am I doing? And I don't want to let the group down, because the group means I think so much to so many guys that the
Mhm.
fear of letting them down can be paralyzing. And so, I mean, the advice that I would have for new site queues is just to work through that. Um, kind of, if you're feeling that paralyzation, to just kind of embrace it, wallow in it, and push through it, because I think it's normal to feel that way. But you're not going to let the group down. Just show up with the flag, and everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's great advice. What as you think about just other pieces of your journey, and I guess before we go too far into other pieces of your journey, talk to us a little bit about logo creation. Like, how did that come about? What's your secret sauce? Maybe you can't even share that. Maybe it's just like,
No, I'd love to share it. That way, like if anybody else wants to design stuff, they can just kind of take my building blocks and run with it. So generally, like someone just reaches out to me and says, "Hey, I'm a site Q. I want to do a new logo design," and so I have a canned response with, "That's great. Uh, I need you to tell me what you're thinking here. Do you, if you've got a sketch, send me that. If you've seen a design of something that you like, send me that. And then, I need to know your established date. I need to know which core principle you want integrated into the design. Do you want to hide some kind of design element? Do you, if there's someone's initials, or if you want to put a chicken in there, just kind of like give me a bullet list of all the stuff that needs to go in there. And then I design all the logos one color, so because like no guy wants to buy a two-color shirt. They want to buy the cheap one that they can wear, trash it, and get a new one. So that just like that automatically simplifies the design process. And then I don't know if guys have noticed, but I only use the same two typefaces. I only use Industria or Industria. In fact, I only use only use Industry. It's the only typeface I use. That way that there's like a connective design element between all the logos. And I only basically use one typeface. I think there's two typefaces, light and black. And so that helps with the streamlining of the design process, because I don't have to go, oh, what's the perfect typeface? I don't have to consider whether it's going to be Comic Sans or Papyrus. We're not going to use either. So we only use one called Industry, and I like it. It's easy to read. It looks, tough and aggressive, and it seems like that's what the packs like. And so I don't futz with it unless, like the heavy metal logo, I modeled that one after the Metallica typeface. So that one was a custom piece of typography, but most of the time it's just, a really cool design. Well, actually, I take that back. I did custom lettering for Dragon's Lair, because I was talking with Mr. Miyagi, and he was like, I want it to be like the typeface from that either video game or cartoon from the 80s. And so there was a cartoon, I think, called Dragon's Lair, and so we just modeled the logo type after that.
Nice.
So a lot of the time, I really like to spend the time of the design in the actual like visual element. So like Dragon's Lair had just a sick dragon, and the pit has just an awesome looking snake. So some of these times, like the guys are like, "Oh, I want a snake." I'm like, "Cool! I've always wanted to draw a snake. Let's make this the best snake I've ever drawn."
So do you draw them like like on CAD or just by hand, or how do you do that?
So what I'll do is I'll find like a reference image. I'll pull it into an application called Procreate. I'll sketch over the top of that image. Then I'll pull that into Illustrator, and then I'll illustrate it using vector graphics. So that way we can hand it off to Mudgear, because Mudgear needs everything as either an EPS or an AI file.
Okay.
So it's got a process to it, but if guys, like I just got done doing the design for Fury Road.
Yeah.
Thor wanted it to look like the War Boys like Death Wheel thing. And so I was like, well, that's cool, but I think since it's a biking AO, we need to have like a bike chain, and we need to have like the gear sprocket, as well as like that Mad Max kind of tie-in. And so I kind of like I overlaid like a bike chain and a sprocket, and then that War Boys like flaming skull wheel thing, and then I just sketched it all. And then shaded it in and gave it over to Thor, and Thor's like, "Oh, that's perfect. Is it done?" Like, no, I got to do the work now.
This is a sketch.
Every guy gets the sketch. And like, is this it? I'm like, no, that's the sketch I told her I was going to send to you. And
Yeah,
so
that's funny.
I think generally I don't have the site queues send you the sketches for approval. I generally just have them send you the final thing,
Hmm.
because that way, like, you don't have to look at things twice, and you don't have to like really look at it in process.
Yeah,
Because like you'd be like, well, the typeface is tough to read. I'm like, well, it is a sketch, and I have bad handwriting, so
yeah. Well, and I'm pretty strict on those approval reviews.
yeah,
I've got
you got to
I'm
have a trademark and a registered mark and everything in there.
yeah, I'm like, did Tenderfoot do this? Okay, fine, it's great then. No, there's been a couple of guys. I think Polaroid maybe did a few. I know Snickers, who's in sort of more F3 Nation, but yeah, I just, that the number of AOs and just the consistency, and I think at some point we're gonna have to reorder all of those shirts for guys, but it's been such a cool way, and it's this legacy that you have created. I don't know if you recognize that or not, but it's just really cool, your stamp on the region.
Yeah, I kind of think about that sometimes, but then I'm like, well, okay, I don't want to get my ego in there.
Yeah.
I'm proud of them. I really like what I've done, and I hope other guys do too. Now, I know everyone's a critic, and if someone thinks that my work is not great, I'm like, okay, well, that's your opinion, man. Uh, but yeah, I mean, like, I love that it's a way for me to contribute to the group and to the community, and I may not be able to go to every beat down or every fundraising event, but I feel like if I can do this for the guys and to help like the whole F3 Omaha community kind of continue to accelerate through expansion, I feel like that's how I can bring my talent to help the organization. That I think it's been really like rewarding, and it's given a lot to me, and it's like how I can give back, even though it does also make my ego feel good.
Yeah. You probably can't answer this. Do you have a favorite that you've created over the years?
uh, I don't know. I mean, like, there's like a lot that are my favorites. I love the pit. I love Dragon Lair. I love the new one for Fury Road. I love Octagon's logo.
Hmm.
Um, if I don't say I love the Brickyard, Huffy would probably beat me up. He had me make that one for him. Heavy metal is awesome. Heavy metal has the coolest, like, skeleton fist on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, there's just so many cool things that like the guys asked me to make, and so they're all really cool. Because like it's not just me. Like every guy, like they bring what they want, and then I help
Mhm.
plus their idea. So it's really like I love them all, and I think the guys that request them and that I work with on them and collaborate with really. I think they're great, and I would love to see what the guys think. If we like had some kind of like not Twitter but X poll or something
Yeah.
on
Yeah. Well, that's what I've been talking with a couple of guys about that. If we do a poll to figure out which ones we place pre-orders for, right? Because
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've bought every shirt, over the years, so I've got 70 some shirts plus CSOPs, and I don't even think I could wear them all, but I just you can't. I see them and I'm like, well, I gotta buy that one. That one's cool. Did you do Rabbit Hole?
Yeah, the rabbit hole. Yeah, with that one's spooky.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, with the bunny on it.
Yep, it's so weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is awesome. I do want to just kind of create space for you to share maybe anything else that's on your mind, or anything we maybe didn't get to cover today as we've been talking. Any advice or leadership ideas or quotes or anything that comes to mind?
No, I mean, like, I honestly I wasn't sure what to come prepared with to this, because like I hadn't listened to a gloom in a long time, and so I was just kind of like just off the cuff, see where conversation took us.
Yeah, it's
I
been
don't
great.
have anything else to say, but thanks for having me on your podcast, and um, I was really worried, so thanks for making it not so scary.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's been great, man. I do kind of the last question, and I wish Pony was here to ask you, but it's really his idea, and it's probably my favorite question. But where are you at today, in terms of what do you need sort of support or encouragement on? So like if we see you out there in the gloom, what's something we could kind of nudge you on and just check in with you on?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, God, um, yeah. I mean, like I I don't even know how to answer that. Uh, What do I need? I don't even think about that.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if someone just says, "Hey, I'm glad to see you today," I think that's all I would need to hear. Because like I'm just glad to see them.
yeah, I love it. Simple. That's awesome. Well, it's been great, and it's just cool to hear your story and just yeah, just recount the many years of just time in the gloom. So we'll do a name-orama. I'll start us off. Brandon Flehardy, 38. The Plague.
The Plague.
Ah,
Brian Johnson, 43. Tenderfoot.
Tenderfoot. Awesome. And have we come up with a call sign? I haven't heard one.
A call sign. What's that?
Like like just like a phrase or like a
Or
sound or
a callback? No, we don't. I don't have
something.
one.
Okay.
No, we don't have one for me. I love it when the guys have them. We got like Dirty Bird's got the caw.
Yeah.
Rosetta's got Stone. We got Splinter's got Cell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have one. So maybe one day I'll
We
learn.
got to work on that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, brother. It's been great just talking to you today. Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, and I'll look for this to get released tomorrow. Right.
Right. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yep. See
Have
you
a
then.
good one.